Hi and welcome to the Comfort Table. I'm Teal, this is Cian, and today we're going to talk about uniforms. So I guess it's pretty well known that in Singapore, for compulsory schooling, you have to wear school uniforms. Right, so today we're going to talk about how we feel about having worn uniforms for more than a decade of our life and whether we think that was good or bad in developing our sense of self. Our dress sense as well.
Yeah, so I think like most things, it's obviously a nuanced answer, and we hope to delve a bit into the different parts of it. So there may not be a proper conclusion, but we just have to share the spectrum of things that we experience with uniforms. Let's talk about the uniforms that we wore first.
Yeah, so in primary school, I wore a blouse and a pinafore. And then the boys wore a short sleeve shirt and like knee length shorts. The blouse or the shirt
For
for
both guys
boys
and girls.
was white, and then the pinafore for girls and the shorts for boys was blue.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
blue and white. Very
The colour will
standard
come up.
uniform
The
colour.
colour will come up later.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
And in secondary school, I went to an all-girls school, so everybody wore like a white sleeveless blouse and a white pleated skirt. I think those people who know will know what school I went to. And we actually went to the same JC.
Junior college, yeah. It's a colour that sort of changes between batches, but it's sort of like this brown, beige, khaki,
Very strange.
colour that's kind of like skin colour, but not quite. It's not skin colour because we don't look naked wearing it, but and then it's not a very appealing colour. For me, I went to co-ed schools for both primary and secondary schools. In primary school, my uniform was, the top was a very light yellow. On the shirt itself, the collar was green. And then we had to wear a tie, which was green. It was like a tie that everybody had to wear a tie. They've changed the uniform since then, but that was when I was in school. And then the skirt was green. So for guys, it was a similar color, just that they had shorts instead of
Green shorts.
green shorts. And it's not knee length, it's the sort of shorter cut kind of shorts. Then for secondary school, I went to also a co-ed school, and then everyone's uniform was white. So for girls, we had a shirt. I mean, it's not really a blouse, it's more like a shirt. And then we had those metal buttons on the top. And then a pleated skirt. For the guys, it was a shirt, but not just the buttons on top, right? So I think there were like buttons,
On
there
the
were
chest
chest
pockets?
pockets, and then there were like, we didn't have the silver buttons in front, but there's some other schools that have it, because our uniform was very similar.
Yeah.
And then they had like white pants. So for lower secondary school, which is age 13 and 14, they wore shorts, which were white. And then for upper sec, which was age 15 and 16, they wore long pants, and then those were white as well. And then for, I think we didn't mention shoes, but then
Shoes,
throughout my primary and secondary school, we had to wear white socks and white shoes. And then in JC, I think it was a bit more relaxed. We could wear anything that was primarily white and primarily black.
Yeah.
As long, there could be other colours mixed in, but as long as it was mainly black
Yeah.
or white, it was
Grey
fine.
was also like acceptable, and I think
As long as you didn't wear
our-
like bright
yeah.
red, bright green, or bright yellow,
Yeah.
people were usually fine. You can wear that during PE though.
The actual rule was like pretty strictly worded, but the discipline master was pretty chill about it. He just said, as long as when I look at you, the first thing I see is not your shoes, it's fine.
Yeah, and then I think for most schools, ankle socks were not allowed. You have to wear socks that covered your ankle.
That's interesting because like my secondary school was one of the first to have the ankle socks, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, as part of the uniform, and so,
so it was like the
ankle
school socks with the school.
Yeah, there was like the
logo.
school initials, I guess, on the band.
Yeah, but technically the ankle socks that were popular during that period were even lower than those.
Yeah, so like the rule was like you had to wear your ankle socks high enough that you could see the
school
lettering.
letters, right.
Yeah.
So we briefly talk about like our uniforms, and then now we'll talk a bit more about like the things that we sort of, I guess, now think about many years after we have been through schooling. I don't think these are things that we would have thought about while we were at that age.
Yeah. Let's talk about the good stuff first.
Yeah, let's talk about the good stuff first.
So one thing I really appreciated about having uniforms was not needing to care what to wear every day because it's just the same thing, right? The same top, the same bottom.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was
yeah.
fairly straightforward because you wore your uniform on all days, like 5 days of the week, except for PE lessons where you need to bring your extra, like whatever your PE uniform
your PE
is.
stands for physical education. So your
For me, it was always a t-shirt and some
shorts.
form of shorts.
Yeah.
So
And then after the PE class, you had to change back to your regular uniform.
Yeah.
Without showering, which is
a bit gross.
Okay, no, we're talking about the good stuff.
Okay, so yes, I agree that it was really good to not have to think about what to wear because like for me it was very simple. Every time I went to a new school, we just bought like 3 sets of uniforms. Some people have 2, some people have 4. It depends on how many you want.
Yeah, I actually had 5 sets because we only did laundry once a week.
Right, because my family does laundry more often, so we have 3 sets, right? It was like a very predictable routine. You didn't have to think too much about it.
And if you grow out of it, just buy the next size.
Yeah, so that was good. And then like you could wear the same uniform throughout most of your years. I grew taller, but like my mom just let out the hem of the skirt until there was like almost no hem. And then like that's how I survived with the same set of uniform through 6 years of primary school, growing from 123 cm to 164 cm.
I don't remember what happened in primary school, but for secondary school, my mom intentionally bought a larger sized skirt, and which also means it was a bit longer, and so I wore that throughout my 4 years, even though I grew like 10 cm.
It's very common to see like lower primary and lower secondary students wearing oversized uniforms because that's usually when like most people's growth spurt happens.
Around
So
like
most-
13, 14
Most
for
parents
girls.
kind of predict that by buying a bigger size.
Yeah. For boys, it's not so bad because usually they have a uniform switch in between 14 and 15.
So they'll go from shorts to long pants.
Yeah. The other good thing is also like everybody is wearing the same thing, so
There's a bit less of a need to worry about social class status.
yeah, like who are the fashionable girls in class? I guess that there were like
There were
slight
slight signs that like I think
like
students
certain
pick up.
accessories, certain
Your
ways
watch,
of like wearing,
your glasses, how you tie your hair.
I don't know how you had it, how it was in your school, but like some girls like to roll up their skirts to make them shorter.
Yeah. They
Or
roll
like
them at a waistband,
or
right?
pull down the socks to make them lower.
Yeah, so there were some signs of like being fashionable or being popular, like the in crowd. There are many ways that you can try and do it, like your hair, your glasses. There were restrictions on earrings as well. You can only wear like a single small stud on the lobe.
Or like ear sticks.
But people always try to get around it, right? But because of the uniform, there was significantly less things that you could try to do.
Yeah.
Which I think helped a lot because it's not that obvious who is of what social class until you really like talk to them as a person. Yeah, so I thought that was really nice. And I think I honestly just really enjoyed not having to think about what to wear.
Yeah, because imagine you're waking up at like 5:30 in the morning as a child, as a teenager, and then you like open your closet and like, oh shit, I need to go to school, and you're like this groggy state, so you don't have to think about what to wear, right? Just like pick out one set, top,
You
bottom.
won't be mocked for what you wear because like you can just blame it on the uniform. Even if there are ways to wear it such that you look more popular, you can always just be like, it's the uniform, it's not me.
Uniforms were not very flattering. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, they're not flattering on most people, so there wasn't much you could do, right? So
Maybe
that was comforting.
That was also a good point, like the uniform not being flattering.
Yeah, it was honestly a very, I guess in a way it felt safe because everyone is kind of hidden by this like not particularly flattering uniform, so you don't feel so much of a competition kind of. Nowadays when I see other people on the trains, I feel like there has been a shift in how uniforms are worn. Like I feel like nowadays people tend to buy smaller uniforms, so maybe that could potentially look more flattering in the sense that they're tighter against the body. But like back in our days, it was very common for people to wear oversized uniforms, so they were generally like not flattering.
Yeah, there was this trend though in JC where the boys had like tapered pants.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's different trends in different periods. There was a period where like a lot of people like to fold up their
For all the
sleeves.
sleeves, right?
The uniform does achieve its intention, which is like, sort of to make people, the students who are studying, kind of more uniform, so you don't have to care too much about your class or your status, like your social standing,
You don't have to think of what to wear, so you can focus on.
your studies. Right, so I think it does do that, and I'm quite grateful for it because evidently I do not have a great fashion sense.
And you don't really need to like spend money on clothes every year because you
yeah,
just wear the
yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, so like this whole idea of like the American back to school shopping for clothes is very
Non-existent,
strange
yeah. Because
to us.
at most you just buy what, shoes?
Yeah, you buy shoes, but they're all white shoes, so like
Yeah.
there's also a limited range of like what you can do with it. I think that's like the biggest 2 points, I guess, that they were like uniformly not flattering and they were, I guess, sort of like unifying or like giving some sort of common basis to all the students, right? So you
Yeah.
could really focus on your duties as a student. But there are some things that like I guess are not so straightforward. So I think definitely from the way we describe it, you can tell that our uniforms are gendered. So let's talk a bit about that. Coming from somebody who now doesn't wear skirts willingly, it feels a bit strange to imagine that for about a decade or so, I was basically wearing a skirt every day. But the way I got around it was that I wore my PE shorts underneath.
But most
So
of
that
the
it was
time,
safe.
like wearing shorts under the skirt was something that everyone did because, they are safety shorts.
Yeah, I feel like maybe it depends. I don't really know what's like more common nowadays. Back in my days, the people I hang around with generally all wore safety shorts, and then if they
Same.
don't, it's kind of like, oh, you're very daring, or
Yeah.
they are probably one of those girls who are actually quite confident in their sexuality at that age.
Yeah.
It's quite rare
Yeah.
at that point, but yeah, those usually were the kind.
Yeah, and it's a bit strange to think about it now because those skirts were definitely nowhere near considered short. So there was like no
They had to
way.
be knee length,
Knee
which
length,
meant
right.
that either they touched the knee or like in some cases was like maybe
Three
at most
fingers
3 or 4 fingers above your knee. Right? Like it was nowhere near a miniskirt. It was
Yeah, so at that length, like why do you need to wear safety shorts, right? But it was like the norm to wear safety shorts.
yes, and yeah, I don't know. So to me it's very strange. I mean obviously I think the skirt is the easiest one to kind of pinpoint.
yeah.
When we want to talk about gender expression.
Yeah.
But there's other like more small nuanced things like in my primary school. Okay, so they have since changed it. Actually, they changed it while I was still in school. But it used to be that the PE attire for girls. So the top was the same. It was a yellow T-shirt. Like, don't judge the color scheme. It was not a good color scheme. It was a yellow T-shirt, and then for pants we had different pants for guys and girls. So the girls used to have pants that were shorts that were basically had tights, right? So that was really awkward for like a growing kid. And then the guys had like regular like shorts that were like straight cut, so they hide your shape. So I felt that, and I think it was a very common feeling for a lot of the girls at the time that it was very revealing, and like a lot of us didn't really like our PE shorts.
We're
They
talking
changed
about
it.
kids who are below
Like,
12 years
Yeah,
old, right?
7 to 12.
Yeah.
So like they changed it actually while I was still in school, like around when I was in primary 4 or 5. But like for most of us who already bought our uniforms, we obviously didn't want to spend the money to change it, so we just continued wearing it. But it was a bit uncomfortable as you were going through puberty to be like, hey, these are the shorts that girls wear and these are the shorts that guys wear, and the guys' shorts are like basically like the regular exercise shorts that you can kind of get from like sports brands, where it's like shorts and then inside there's the extra lining, the underwear shaped lining thing. But then like for the girls, right, it's just this thin
Elastic
material.
thing.
Yeah, this thin elastic material is like worse than yoga pants. At least like yoga pants have some thickness to them, right? Like the decent ones lah, right? So these were really terrible, and like I remember it was sort of like a sign of pride of some of the dancers that they look good in those shorts, the girl tight shorts. So that was like a bit awkward and like uncomfortable. They did change it though, so I mean that's credit like where credit's due. But
Yeah, in my primary school, because the uniform difference between the guys and the girls was a bit more distinct.
Since it's a pinafore.
Since it was like a pinafore, so it was like an extra layer on top. So during the very hottest months, like June, July, August, I remember our new principal at that time, when I was in like primary 4 or 5, maybe primary 5, said that we could all wear the PE uniform to school and not have to change out of it after your PE class. So like normally you would like wear your regular uniform and then change for PE class and then change back. But he said you could just like wear the PE uniform. And I remember it being a very freeing experience because suddenly all you needed to wear was like just t-shirts and shorts. And you can imagine at the age of like 10 to 12, that's when girls start undergoing puberty. Then they start wearing like training bras. So you can imagine if it's the regular uniform, you have to wear that. Then you wear the blouse. Then you wear the pinafore. Then there's like 3 layers in like 30-degree weather.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, right? Yeah, so for me at that age, it was more of like a more comfortable alternative, more comfortable situation. Yeah, but then when I got to secondary school, then I realized that the skirt was very awkward because it was pleated and then there was lining inside, so it was very heavy. But more than the skirt, it was like the top that was really awkward because it was sleeveless and there was no collar, so it's basically, imagine it's like a pillowcase and then you cut like the hole for the neck and the hole for the arms.
It is called a pillowcase, by the way.
And it's like white.
Really.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, it's a sleeveless top, right? So people will be able to see your armpits. But the thing is, nobody taught us how to shave. And so I did not think that shaving was a thing. So I didn't know how to shave for quite a few years. And so to get around it, I actually wore a jacket more or less the whole time.
In 30-degree weather.
Yes! So like it's just unbelievable. And recently I was at the bus stop and I heard like 2 guys talking to each other about the girls in general from my school, and they were saying like, oh, you know, when they're on the bus and then they like lift up their arm to hold the pole or like the hand support, right? Then you can see like the armpit hair, and then they were complaining, the guys were complaining about how they were so disgusted by it. But
oh, ouch.
Like, why, first of all, why does it concern you? And second of all, have you thought of how hurtful this could be for like teenage girls?
Yeah.
Right?
So like, I suppose in that particular incident, it's not just the guys, which I think that is a pretty, like, the sentiment they share is a pretty common thing around here, I guess, and about body hair in general lah. But also like, you know, why does the school uniform need to be sleeveless, especially at an age where people are like growing body hair and like
more
currently
self-conscious about
society has the perception. I mean, the common perception is that body hair on females are weird, right? It's weird. I also heard on the bus before, like 2 guys complaining. So they're saying that they saw this Chinese lady. She was dressed really prettily in like those like flowy, I suppose they were sleeveless, flowy dresses that made her look like a bit like a fairy or an angel kind of vibe, right? But then when she lifted her arms to hold the the handles on the bus, there was flowing hair, and then they felt really disgusted by it. And then they continued to add on to say that like when they go to the pool, they feel really disgusted when they see like girls who are in bikinis, but then when they go into the water, there's like black things floating around their arms, that kind of. I mean, they describe it in very vivid detail, right? Which is how I kind of remember it. This was like years ago, mind you. But I guess it's stayed with me, this memory of it, because it's quite
scarring.
It's quite common. And it's also like, why do the bodies and hair, I guess, of women have to be policed so much?
Yeah.
Like in this case, I'm not fully blaming the uniform, but the uniform doesn't help, you know?
Yeah. Definitely not.
Like, definitely part of it is also like this sentiment that people have, which is common but not quite fair. I don't know whether having a uniform with sleeves will make it better or worse.
I was very relieved when I got into JC and I finally had sleeves. And my friends were as well. We were like, yes, we finally have sleeves, you know?
Yeah,
like, that feeling. And that was like one part of us liking the new uniform, even though it was a shit color. The other part was that the uniform was no longer white. This white uniform is very difficult to wear and maintain.
Yes, so I also had a secondary school uniform that was white, and there's a lot of funny things that happen. So I think I guess the more controversial one would be like underwear or bra colors.
Yeah, so it was part of the school uniform regulations that you could only wear bras of certain color.
Nude and white, usually.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, as a general, like, you know, when you grow older and then you Google, like, how to dress professionally, that's what people tell you as well. But then, I guess when you're teens and you look at it in a school rules kind of book, you're like, yeah.
Why? And like, especially if you consider that after school, some of these people have after school activities, like they're in some sports club or something. So naturally, they'll just like wear the sports bra the whole day. And how many sports bras are like white or nude color, right?
I don't know. For me, like, the people, in general in my school, when people wear coloured bras, it was more of a sign of like asserting dominance, I guess. Trying to be like
a rebel.
yeah, it was really like that. So it was like they will wear like fancy coloured bras, like dark blue. Actually, a very common one was black, which I felt like was okay. It's just like, you know, maybe like unprofessional,
Not under white.
Yeah, but you know that, I mean, like, we were kids, right? Like, how would you know something is not suitable until you tried it? Which is not to say you should try everything, but I'm sure there's some things you shouldn't try. But you know, like, bra color is a relatively like minor thing, right? So I think the other thing that was very common during my age was like a lot of people will wear those bras with halter neck tops. Then you tie it such that the string shows on top, and then a lot of times they were like neon colors, like pink, orange, yellow.
I don't think that happened in my school.
Yeah, so they used to enjoy having that. Like, the only reason why it will show in a PE uniform is because it was a t-shirt. But then, like, in the regular uniform, it won't show because we had a collar, around it. Because the uniforms were quite big, right? So the only way you would really see their bra colours was, like, either if they were very big in front, like it was pressing against the shirt, or if you, like, sort of, like, press down their backs, then you could see. Because, like, most of the time, if the shirt is baggy, you would not actually see the colour. And plus, we had, like, extra things here, right, because of the button. So it's not like you can really see the bra strap colour. Yeah.
I think ours was quite obvious because it's like just one layer of cloth.
Right. But the thing is, as you wear the same set of uniform over the 4 years that you're in secondary school, it will grow thinner. So it got more obvious, the colours will show through. But you know what's the weird thing? So the rule books does mention that you should not have, either it was unmentioned or the discipline master or mistress verbally said it, that you should not wear bras of like strange colours, right? But they do not police guys' underwear colours. Okay, granted, they never police the girls' underwear colour, but that's because we had pleated skirts, so it was like almost impossible to see what colour it was, plus most of us wore safety shorts, right, like the PE shorts. But, no, because like, now looking back, I realised that like as much emphasis was placed on the colours of bras for girls, right, almost none was placed on the fact that like a lot of guys, because as we said, right, the uniform being white kind of grows thin over time as well, so it's very easy to see through. And then it was really obvious when people wore like red underwear, black underwear, dark coloured underwear basically. And like, why was that not taught to guys that, you know, you shouldn't wear these colours under a white pair of pants, right? And then like something like that was so policed over for like a bra. I'm not saying like you should police guys' underwear colours, but I'm just saying that there's a very big difference between how like the female and the male uniform were kind of regulated.
I went to an all-girls school, so that didn't really happen for us because there was no like comparison.
Right. Yeah, so that was the case. Was in our case, like our uniforms were tucked in, so you couldn't see the band of the underwear, whatever. Like, it wasn't, that really wasn't an emphasis, but it was pretty easy to see the colour. The other thing that kind of struck me as a bit funny is that, like, people always taught girls to sit with their legs closed. In fact, that was something that our discipline mistress reminded us very often. To sit with our legs closed, or like when we're sitting cross-legged, to cover, use our skirts to cover, because our skirts are long enough since they're knee-length, right? But then nobody taught guys wearing shorts to sit more
with their knees together,
demurely, because there were a lot of times when walking by like guys sitting on the staircase, you could like look through their pants and see that they're wearing red underwear. I don't know why red underwear. I don't know why red underwear was such a thing back then, but like
It's a lucky colour.
no, I often saw flashes of red underwear like without intending to, and then back in the days we just laugh it off lah. We just be like, oh my god, did you see? It was like red. But then like now looking back, it's a bit like why was that not taught to them, or why was that only taught to the girls? I'm not saying that you should. I don't know. I don't really know where I stand on this. I don't know whether you should teach or not teach people.
I think you should, because it's like common courtesy and modesty to not expose yourself to others.
I suppose so, yeah.
I mean, they don't want to see your red underwear, right? So
yeah,
you shouldn't assault them.
it's just kind of sad to think back and be like, oh, as a girl, like our uniforms were policed so much, and we're often very worried about like. So I suppose the people who deliberately flaunted the school rules didn't really care, but then like people like me were always a bit like, I didn't really want to be caught of flaunting the school rules. Which is not to say I was a goody two shoes. I did untuck my blouse after school just to be like, hey, I'm kind of cool, which obviously was not the case. But and nobody taught guys to be mindful of like glass railings and standing too close to them when they're in the shorts.
Yeah.
I think the last part of this is really graduating from schools that had uniforms into a school that did not require a uniform.
Which in our case was university.
So I think there's a bit of a culture shock for people like us who are so used to uniforms. Like, as much as I complain about the uniforms, it's also kind of comforting. So on one hand, I was really glad that I didn't have to wear a skirt anymore. I could choose to wear pants anytime without having to worry about it.
Yeah. And I could choose to wear like single layered things. I didn't have to wear multiple layers in this terrible heat.
I quickly realized in my first year of university that I didn't know how to dress well.
Yeah.
Like, maybe not even dress well. I didn't know how to dress in a way that was like maybe appropriate for the occasion, let's just say. Like, that's the baseline, right? To dress appropriately for the occasion.
Yeah.
I think, like, also because Singapore in general, we are, I guess, a society that doesn't dress very fancily. I mean, if you see like Storm, we tend to.
Yeah.
If you look around, you see a lot of people in shorts and t-shirts, or singlets and shorts, and slippers, flip-flops. It's very common, but that is maybe not that suitable for university. Although a lot of us did show up like that at university. When there were critics or any other more important presentations, it was like, what do I wear?
Yeah, because suddenly you're going to a situation where like you wear the same thing for 5 days a week, and on weekends you like wear casual clothes, and now you have to like wear things to present yourself as an adult at an institute of higher learning to your professors, to your peers, like all the time.
Yeah, and like I think even the idea of like figuring out what do I like or dislike in clothes was
learning curve.
Yeah,
right?
I really only started thinking about it because I had to dress myself every day. Because basically with uniform you can shut off that part that was like, I have to dress myself. You don't have to do it, you just like put on the same thing. Yeah. And then I went through a phase where I tried different clothes, and like basically now I don't think I kept a lot of the clothes that I had in university. But I have some, but not a lot.
I actually chose the lazy route. So I graduated from a uniform to another uniform. So what I wear for most of university was like t-shirts and denim shorts.
But it's a choice also, right? I went through a bit of like I guess I should dress like a lady, which like, haha. I was so young at that point in time. So I did go through a period where I tried to wear like tank tops, and then like pair with a cardigan because it's too awkward to leave my shoulders bare. And then like I tried buying some like dresses. I also of course had my jeans, which I had from secondary school, and t-shirts, which is a bit funny because like actually I was a tomboy in secondary school. I still am, I guess, and I had a lot of like baggy t-shirts and shorts. But then I was like, I'm in university, I'm an adult now, I should try to be more ladylike, right? So that was my thinking at that point in time. Which, anyway, to be fair, I guess was something that I had to go through. But it's just really funny right now because I guess I didn't really know how to dress myself, and trying to be society's idea of what I should be like as a woman was even weirder. Because like now I'm a bit more comfortable with what I wear, but it took me a really long time to figure that out. And like back then, trying to figure out how to dress myself and how to dress myself like society wants me to was like two challenges that suddenly came at me the moment uniforms were thrown out of the window.
Yeah.
So that was really a very weird learning curve, like looking back. At the point in time, I was just like, maybe I just don't know how to wear clothes, like how to buy clothes. But I think now it's also the other problem that was like layered on top of it was like the feeling of having to wear female clothes. Not saying that clothes are gendered necessarily, but that, you know, this is what society perceives to be female clothing, and yeah, that was really awkward.
I also went through a phase in university where like my regular casual clothes would be really sloppy t-shirts and shorts, and then my like going out more presentable clothes would be like bodycon dresses.
Oh, right. I remember that period. And you had a really short pair of shorts.
I had a really short pair of white denim shorts. They were like
Very revealing.
your ass cheeks were hanging out kind of shorts. And one day I decided, yeah, you know what?
This is not.
I don't enjoy sitting my bare ass on chairs. Even though the shorts look good, but no.
Yeah, so
I also went the full circle where, you know, I tried like hyper feminine, and then after that I
right, that's the word. Yes, hyper
yeah
feminine.
yeah because like I was also kind of like a tomboy in school, so much that when I met my school friends outside in a skirt, they were like, oh, you're wearing a skirt, and I'm like,
Yeah.
but we were in school for 10 years together. I was wearing a skirt for 10 years.
But I guess in a way
What?
we discounted that because it was a uniform. We had
Yeah.
like no choice.
So
about
like
it.
in their mind I was like a tomboy, so it was really weird for them to see me wearing a skirt of my own volition,
Right,
which is
yeah.
the key point.
yeah.
So nowadays I just wear like pants and shorts. Shorts because I can't be arsed, and pants because that's what I wear to office.
Yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
do that too. I put on pants when I want to feel a bit more like fancy. So I guess that's kind of like how we went through the cycle of like uniforms, and then like through like an experience where actually we didn't have to wear uniforms.
I think it was good that I went through having to wear a uniform. If I had to choose for my younger self again, I would still choose to wear a uniform, to have a uniform
Yes.
school rule.
I would do that. I think the part that I struggle with is like what would I say about gendered uniforms? I think this is probably the case in some like other countries where like the girls get the choice of wearing pants as well instead of skirts. Right. But then to me I don't think a uniform that is, let's say, consisting of a shirt and long pants, right, for both guys and girls would be like the right way to go either. That's a bit strange as well. And like, I don't know. I mean, the point of uniform is to make things uniform, so you don't have to think about it. But then,
Yeah.
like, if you make it such that both guys and girls wear that, it's also a bit like, I don't know. I don't have a good answer to this. I was really thinking about like what would a good uniform to me be like, and I don't have an answer.
Yeah, the other thing that could be better would be like the enforcement or the policing of uniform standards.
But I guess in a way it could also be reflected in the fact that the uniforms themselves are different. Like for example, the guys in our junior college got moderated for like their tapered pants, but obviously
Yeah.
that was not something that the girls had, right?
Yeah, the girls were for the length of their skirt.
Yeah, so like
So I guess it's kind of the same, but not
it's also
really.
like, you know, for
Yeah.
example, you can't police guys for the bra color because they're not wearing bras. You get what I mean? So like I don't know how much of it is also like in the actual uniform, and then how much of it is the gendered expectations.
Yeah.
I guess that was our very
Our very uniform experience.
yeah. So let us know what it's like for you. Is it common to wear uniforms in your country, and do you have to wear a uniform in your country?
Do you did you like wearing a uniform, or do you prefer, when you went to university like us, having the freedom to choose what to wear?
Share it with us in the comments below, and that's all for this video.
Yep.
Okay, see you next time.
Bye.
Bye bye.